Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar. Our topic today is exposing your security blind spots, threats that may be closer than they appear. We will also be recording this video for later viewing. My name is Jared Robach, and I'm from cStor as a consulting cybersecurity engineer. My background comes from managing content filtering solutions for over 20,000 end users. I'm joined today by Tyler Silvis from Cisco. Tyler, would you like to do your own introduction, please?
Hey team, my name's Tyler. I'm your cloud security rep out here on the West Coast. Former teacher, hat aficionado, so you may get a few of those things sprinkled in on this webcast, but really great to be here with everybody. Jared?
Thank you, Tyler. So before we get in too much of the weeds of what we're going to be going over today, I want to make sure that we go over some housekeeping rules. So if you're joining us on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, be sure to sign in and sign into our guest book. If you sign in, that's the only way that you're going to be able to post any comments. It's also a requirement in order to have the Grubhub gift card mailed to you. Also, we're here to have this be as interactive as possible. So whether you're interested in a free Umbrella trial, please check that box, or you're just here to understand more about what Umbrella has, please join us and be as interactive as possible. We'll also try and bring your questions up on screen as much as possible so we can actually have a conversation about that. So today we'll be explaining the benefits and values of Cisco Umbrella. Whew. All right, Tyler, now that we have all the housekeeping out of the way, I think it's time to get started.
I think so too. Let me share my screen.
Perfect. All right, I can see your screen.
Awesome, team. Go ahead, Jared.
All right, so we're going to get into who is cStor. Before we get into the big weeds of all what we're going to talk about with Cisco, first I want to tell you a little bit about Cisco. Cisco is an award-winning solution provider who always puts our clients first. We are infinitely more valuable to you when you truly understand your business, your culture, your infrastructure, your capabilities, and your needs. Next slide. So this is what I was talking about, the award-winning provider. And we also have solution offerings. We offer 3 focus areas: digital transformation, cybersecurity, and data center solutions. With this deep understanding of what your business needs, we can assess and clearly define the gap between current capabilities and your desired goals, and we'll help put you on a path to success. Next, our approach, our mission is really to put people on a path to success. We do that by putting our clients first. We are vendor agnostic, and we become highly specialized. And lastly is our cStor services. Whatever your business need is, cStor can help. We can help you plan, design, deploy, maintain, optimize your IT projects. You name it, we can try and find a solution for you. Thank you, Tyler, for letting me get that in before we get started.
Yeah, Jared, it's really great to be working with this team again. You guys do awesome work.
Thank you, Tyler. All right,
so Jared,
let's get started.
So team, as you can kind of see, we're all living in a digital world. I am not the best slide presenter. We are all trying to adjust to this new world that we're living in. And that's really important for us, especially during these times. And I know we're all talking about these times, but at any point, we could have workers get sick, get quarantined, and not able to access their workflow. So this is something that Cisco's already really been thinking about for a long time, and we've been analyzing this transition to the cloud. So I want to kind of show you guys a couple of surprising statistics. One, we already know that 50% of the workforce is roaming. We definitely expect to see that number hike, or at least to be partially roaming. The other thing I wanted to mention to you guys is 85% of your users don't use their VPN. So even if you have a roaming team, chances are they don't use their VPN. Hey, Jared, let me ask you a quick question. Are you on your VPN right now? Do you ever turn it off and work?
No, only when I need something at the office.
Right, but luckily Jared has Cisco Umbrella roaming client, so we can protect him. We also know that there is a real transition to SaaS applications. Think Salesforce, think Tableau. A lot of our workers can now access these on their phone or on their remote device. We need to make sure that they're accessing this in a safe way. Now, this is probably going to be a little different because we know that obviously post COVID-19, we're going to have to make some other differences. But we do expect to see offices directly connecting to the internet. Now, what does this really mean? In a nutshell, it means that your workers are no longer on the perimeter. So how is Cisco going to extend that perimeter? How are we going to protect your remote team? Before we really kind of go into that and touch on that, I want to bring you guys to see this market that we're already looking at currently. As you can see here, we have DNS layered security. If you're familiar with OpenDNS or the old Umbrella packages, that's pretty much where we stand. But we also have secure web gateway, which is an intelligent proxy. We also have a cloud access or a CASB, a cloud access security broker. That's CloudLock. We also have firewalls. All of those products are disparate and they don't necessarily talk to one another. This isn't just a problem that we've seen. We also see that there is a lot of issues with other vendors who have multiple of these certain products that aren't talking to each other. So Cisco decided, hey, why don't we see if we can make this a better platform? They took the OpenDNS product and platform and they created what is now called the Secure Internet Gateway, which has all these products as well as Cisco intelligence backing it. But you know what? We here at Cisco have to be sure that we are ready for the next trend. We have to make sure that you're ready for the next trend as well. So we're already working towards a secure the access service edge model. That's SD-WAN as well. So team, before I go into all the great things that Umbrella does, I want to talk very briefly about our roots. OpenDNS. OpenDNS, if you're familiar with us, was a recursive DNS service. And that really was an amazing service because we were able to increase internet speeds for everybody. But we also noticed that there's a lot of intelligence here. Fast forward, Umbrella was purchased by Cisco. We still kept the infrastructure from OpenDNS, but we also added a lot more intelligence to their already phenomenal work. And now what we're able to do is block malware, C2 callbacks, and phishing attempts at the DNS layer. I also wanted to kind of show you what Cisco Umbrella looks like today. Not only do we have that DNS layered security, but as I mentioned, we do have the secure web gateway, the cloud delivered firewall, CASB. But one thing I really want to point out here is to my right, the interactive threat intelligence, as well as SecureX. And this is something that makes Cisco security products unique. We all use Talos architecture. So if you're not familiar with Cisco Talos, it is our research that comes from the entire security architecture. It's really awesome because somebody who has an AMP alert will get, across the world, an Umbrella customer might find out that that person, hey, there was a subdomain associated with that attack. We can block that for Umbrella. That's really an amazing thing. Moreover, we're still trying to be an open platform. And we've already created Cisco Secure X, which is an open plane of glass that you guys can go through and you can control your multiple vendors, your multiple products. Jared, I had a quick question for you. Do you know a lot of your customers, are they using multiple products?
Yeah, so we have customers that are using a lot of different products. They're using the next gen firewalls, then they're using some proxy solutions. I mean, it's kind of a very sprawled out there as far as what solutions they're actually using. So yeah, it is kind of interesting that you point that out. But I have a question. What happens? So if I'm doing this recursive DNS back to Cisco Umbrella, what happens if one of the data center that's housing that IP address, what happens if that goes down?
That is a great question, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Cisco has something called Anycast routing. So first off, the OpenDNS data centers, they're about 32 around the world. We use something called Anycast. So anytime that something goes down, you're automatically routed to the nearest data center. So in America, I'm based out of San Jose area. If San Jose's data center goes down for maintenance, I'm immediately rerouted to the RTP in North Carolina data center. It's very easy, and the customers never, and the user never really experiences any latency. It's very, very cool.
Oh, that's That's really good to know. How many data centers does Umbrella have?
32 around the world, and we're always building as well. So this has been 100% uptime, not since Umbrella's taken it, but since 2006. That is really awesome, and that is something that we at the OpenDNS legacy team are very proud of.
Okay, good to know. So it looks like we have an actual question from someone.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get that posted up. How long does it take to get Umbrella up and running?
Well, you know what? It can take a little bit longer if you have a lot of tools, but traditionally it takes less than 30 minutes because what we're doing is asking you to change your recursive DNS forwarder, point it to our data center, and register the IP addresses. So 15 to 30 minutes, you can have network-wide coverage. It's a very, very powerful tool.
That's really interesting. I've seen some deployments for Umbrella take a little bit longer, but really, so that's just the monitoring blank package. You're not interrupting any business operations, right? 30
Correct.
minutes? Okay.
Correct. It takes about 30 minutes. Now, again, we always have to preface that by understanding your personalized environment, making sure that we are really deploying everything correctly, but 30 minutes is our average at the moment.
Okay. Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that, and I know these comments are going to help as well too. So, all right, good deal. Thank you.
This is one of the things that I think is amazing about Umbrella too, is if you look at it, it started off as simply a recursive DNS tool. That's it. Now we are a true cloud security delivered platform, and that is really powerful for us. But the real question is, this is kind of new, right? Where do we sit in that traditional 1 to 7 layers that people are always discussing? Well, we kind of sit at layer 0. Because we're recursive DNS, we're built into traditional internet usage. Additionally, we're not only your first line of defense, but we're your last line of defense. We block against C2 callbacks. The way that we're doing that is we find that not everything is perfect. There is no silver bullet. So we want to make sure that when a machine is compromised, at least they're not calling back to the bad guy, endangering your workplace. So this is a really cool tool. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on is it's not just on your network. As Jared alluded to earlier, and as I use every single day, I have the Umbrella roaming client. It's a lightweight agent that goes on the machine. There's no real user experience. It simply creates an encrypted DNS tunnel. So anytime your workers leave the office and go to work, whatever network they're on, they'll be protected. So I think this is a really great time for us to really talk about this. I work here in San Francisco. I typically work at home. When I wake up, I'm on the West Coast, so I wake up for East Coast times at 6 a.m. I have to double check everything, hop in, start meetings right away. I don't check into my VPN too often. I'm very secure in knowing that my internet usage is going to be okay. When I go back to the office, it's fine. But if I have to go take a lunch break and I want to go downtown, my roaming client's on. I don't have my VPN on. It's very good for me as a consumer to know that I have that peace of mind. It looks like we actually have a question from the audience.
Yeah, I was just going to wait till you're done. We do have a question. Let's go ahead and throw that up there. Can you walk us through how Umbrella blocks something like the latest Ryuk ransomware?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that we would do this, but primarily the way that we're blocking that is because we're getting that data from Cisco Talos. Talos is, again, the brain of Cisco security architecture. So once they figure out the ways and the vectors of that attack, that information is immediately uploaded to all Cisco security products. So for Cisco Umbrella, we are blocking the subdomains that we found that are associated with our Ryuk attack. Additionally, like we mentioned, we do have that last-ditch effort of having the C2 callback block as well. But remember, part of the ransomware attacks that we like to, mitigate is through prevention. We want to make sure your workers, your team are going to the places that they need to go and not going to, for example, Google by mistake. Yeah. Right? This is really where we work very well because we are making sure that your team is safe and they don't feel like they're being monitored or babysat. It's a very awesome tool.
Good. Okay. So what happens if there's some new domain that hasn't been seen before? What is Umbrella going to do about that?
Yeah. So first, I would say, Jared, a little unlikely that we haven't seen a domain before because we have over 200 billion DNS requests daily. We see a lot of
Wow. Yeah.
information. We're again second only to Google in recursive DNS. But let's say that happens. We actually have a feature called the newly seen domain feature. So what happens is we wouldn't resolve that traffic. That information goes to Cisco Talos in about a day or two. They'll give it a threat score. Based on that threat score, your employees would either be able to go to that or not go to that. Now we understand that sometimes, especially in, for example, school environments or tech environments, that's not really a good enough thing, right? We know people make their own domains, so you can actually upload that domain and our global allow list. It's very cool.
Okay. Yeah, that's really useful for some of these newer domains. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, and as you can kind of see, where are we? We're everywhere. We're at your cafe. We're on your network. We can be on a device. If you have friends, partners come over to my office all the time. They are secure when they come over. Their data is secure when they use our guest Wi-Fi. That is a really powerful story. So I want to give you all a quick thought experiment for a moment. When you had to go to work from home, were you secure? Were you confident that your users were going to be secure? Or were you a little bit nerve-wracked? Were you trying to understand how you were going to protect your remote workers?
Hmm.
It's rhetorical. But remember, Cisco Umbrella is a great solution because we can be deployed so quickly that if in the event that we do have go back from home or work from home orders, we can definitely make sure that we deploy and your team is safe. That is a really awesome thing that we can do.
So Tyler, you mentioned something about unsecured Wi-Fi or anything like that. Walk me through a little bit how Umbrella can actually secure just normal DNS requests.
Yeah. So
Oh, and
once
actually, you know what? Hold on one second. There's actually another question in there as well too. Um, let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. Does Umbrella send my DNS request in plain text? Perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking as well too.
Yeah, so this is pretty special, right? When you have your reporting, you actually will see three different layers of granularity. You can actually just have the device IP address with the domain that they looked into, which is really awesome. But one of the things that we can also do is we can get to the actual device name. So if you have named your devices, you can see that named device where they've gone. But if you have Active Directory, you can actually see the identity that's using that. Now, in terms of can you see it as plain text, you can. But remember, it's DNS, and DNS can sometimes be really jargony and not super conducive to human logic because, well, made by computers. So one of the things that we actually have for your teams are the investigate tool, where if you see a domain, you're not sure about that domain and you want to know more about it, you want to know how we're looking at it, throw it in the investigate tool and you'll get all that information from Cisco Talos at your fingertips, seeing how many people are going to this website, seeing when these websites or where these websites are hosted, what type of score we're giving them, what subdomains are there. This is, again, really allowing your team to be proactive as well as preventative.
Good to know. I really appreciate that one. So one off of that last comment that we had, what we really had, I've had multiple discussions on, is anytime an employee goes to a hotel or their Starbucks or anything like that, you really can tell me that nobody else is going to seep on my traffic and actually see my DNS requests?
Correct, because again,
Wow.
we're creating an encrypted DNS tunnel. So what's happening
Okay.
is all that information is being back tunneled to our recursive DNS servers, and we're applying the umbrella policies on there. And one
Yeah.
of the other things that you mentioned too was, how do you have the separation between your networks, right? Because we're umbrella, we actually allow dashboard owners to have multiple networks. So think about it this way. If you look at, for example, the government, there are multiple people who have to join multiple Wi-Fi's, right? You might have accounting who has their own Wi-Fi. You have a guest Wi-Fi, right? And all of those need different policies. Jared, I know you probably dealt a lot with creating different policies. It can be a little bit of a nightmare to manage. Cisco
Yes.
is easy for you. And I wish I could hop in a demo and show you guys. But for example, we can create policies based on AD groups. That's amazing. If you have an AD group of finance, you can just create a policy for their internet usage. That's it. You don't need to
Yeah.
create multiple policies on top of policies. If you want to have a guest Wi-Fi policy, you can create that. If you want to have a roaming user policy, you can create that. Nobody wants their employees to be on Facebook during the work hours, but you probably don't mind if they're on Facebook around 4 o'clock at their own house on their own work computer. That's what we're talking about. We want to make sure that you guys have flexibility to craft a policy that is not only going to give you security, but also allow you to get your day-to-day operations up and running and really make sure that you don't have to have any hiccups, any nasty emails of, hey, why is this guy going to this?
That's really good. Yeah, I've used OpenDNS for the longest time, but using the family umbrella, I think I might start using that a little bit more at my house and kind of control what my kids are going to, because who knows what they're going to be able to get into, or I don't know, encrypt or get ransomware. So yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, and as a former teacher, I can tell you, teenagers' internet usage habits are a little spotty and wonky. So if we have any public sector folks out here, this is definitely something for you to look at, because we're not talking about just content policy here. We're talking about content and security, but security is always first. That's a really cool story.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks, Tyler.
I bet a lot of you guys are probably wondering, what sets you apart? How are you different from Securely? How are you different from Ironport? And I want to start off with intelligence. There is no company right now that has the breadth of intelligence that we get from Cisco Talos. It is a real pride for me personally, because we are industry leading and we want to make sure that we are providing this data free of charge to everybody. So our customers can use it, so other researchers can use it as well. And that kind of leads us into an open platform. We kind of alluded to it earlier with SecureX and the quote Cisco security story, but we want to make sure that our customers don't have to rip and replace everything. If you've already bought certain tools, we want to make sure your tools work with our tools, because our goal isn't to completely wipe your IT team out. Our goal is to make sure that your team is safe. And that's really awesome. We're also, just like we mentioned earlier, super easy to deploy because we're at the DNS layer. And like we mentioned earlier, we're a very broad service because we are using internet data as well as the Talos data. So you don't really have to take my word for it, Jared. Jared, real quick, who do you think would be like a competitor of Umbrella that you've heard about?
Infoblocks, or let's see, who else? Yeah, Infoblocks off the top of my head.
Yeah, so we actually had an AV test against Infoblocks, Symantec, as well as Zscaler, and a couple of our other cloud security applications. Can you guess who came up number one? I'll give you the answer. It was us. I couldn't wait. And that's really awesome because we are first in threat detection. And that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, we have the most amazing sales folks. No, that means we have a team of cybersecurity specialists who are dedicated to creating a platform and creating a cybersecurity firm that is really going to power your security journey. And it's super powerful. And I really, really am proud of this. This is a tip of the cap to my engineering team on the Umbrella and Talos side. So awesome. Team, before I let you go, I want to give you guys a very brief story about Texas A&M. I really apologize if we have some people who are Longhorns fans on the call, but the Aggies called first. So this is a really unique case because when we look at campuses like Texas A&M, which is a massive, massive university that has multiple campuses, multiple schools, and multiple networks in one location, we had to make sure that, number one, the user experience wouldn't be detrimental. We didn't want there to be any lapse between passing from the guest Wi-Fi to your grad school Wi-Fi in the library. We wanted to make sure that people were always going to be safe and always secure, but had no idea that we were protecting them. Kind of like the MIB. This is where Cisco, Umbrella, and Duo as well came in. Cisco was able to be deployed across the campus in a couple of sessions, which for a major university is insane. We were actually able to make sure that we were not increasing any latency for them, and we still provided them with an open policy. One of the other cool things is, again, with Cisco Duo, we were able to protect these folks' applications. So when university students were trying to get onto Dropbox, they would use Duo. This is a really amazing story, and the one thing I really want to touch upon is we were able to save that team 100 hours of remediation weekly.
Wow.
Right, Jared? Jared, I mean, do we even have 100 hours in the week?
No, we don't. That's not as security that they expect us to.
You know, there's one guy probably on that AN team who had to do the entire 100 hours. So he really, really is thankful. And again, team, this is just really an example of how we can scale this for any type of business, whether it's a university or whether you just own a really great mom and pop shop that you just want to make sure your guest Wi-Fi doesn't get corrupted. So it was really great and special bringing this to you guys. But I really want to make sure that we can actually get you guys up and running so you can play with some of this stuff yourself. Jared, how can they do that?
So just by attending this webinar, you have the ability to sign up for a free trial that lasts up to 21 days. And as we talked about, deployment is super easy. You can get it up and running in about 30 minutes. So all you have to do is just go to our landing page and sign up for the demo, and we'll get you set up. So if you have any other questions or comments, please reach out to us. But on behalf of everyone here at cStor and Cisco, thank you for attending our webinar.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.